Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at 1 Samuel chapters 9 and 10. And what we're looking at today comes directly on the heels of what we took a look at yesterday with Israel demanding a king and wanting to be like the rest of the nations that are around them. And God's response to this was, they have rejected me as their king, and I'm going to just give them what they've asked for. And he tells Samuel that this is what is going to happen. So in chapter 9, the narrative just kind of continues. And we're introduced to Saul, who is someone at this point who is just minding his own business and going about his life. And so we see him chasing after some donkeys of his father that have run away. And he's gone on a journey for several days to try to find these donkeys, and he's unable to find them. And as a part of this journey, he runs into Samuel. And the day before, Samuel has been told by the Lord that he's going to encounter a Benjaminite, and this is the man that he's to anoint as king over Israel. So when it happens at the same time the next day, the Lord speaks to Samuel and is like, this is the guy. So there's some other details that take place, but eventually Saul is told that he's going to be the first king over Israel. But then Samuel gives him a whole series of things that are going to happen on his way back home that he needs to do that are going to actually confirm this message. And one of those things includes having the Spirit of the Lord come upon him mightily, and he's going to prophesy with the prophets that he encounters on his journey home. And everything happens exactly like the Lord, through Samuel, told him it was going to happen. And then a week later, lots are chosen as Israel is called together in front of Samuel, and Saul is chosen as king over Israel. But Saul being chosen as king over Israel is not the real takeaway of this message. Because what stands out to me in reading this passage today is 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 19, where Samuel is speaking to the people and telling them that they're receiving a king because they've rejected God as their king. And it makes me think about all the times that we have prayed to God for something, and we know it's not exactly what we need, but we want it anyway because it's what we want. And so we pray to God asking for it, knowing that that very thing that we're asking for is going to take us further away from God. And sometimes God answers that prayer. And that's what is happening here. Israel asked for a king, even though they didn't need a king. And even though we can go back to books like Deuteronomy and earlier on, to where it's foreshadowed that Israel is going to eventually receive a king and have a king. But what we see here is that this is not what they needed, because it's taking them away from God and having him as their central focus. And we need to be mindful of those kind of prayers in our own life, to where we're asking God for something that's going to take us further away from him. And instead we need to pray prayers that are in line with his will and what he wants, and pray a prayer that says, Lord, if it's not what you want for me, please don't give it to me, so that we don't end up like what we're going to see happening to Israel throughout the rest of the Old Testament. So that's what I want to encourage you with today as you take a look at this passage, is to take a look at 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 19, and then look at your own prayers and the prayers that you've prayed to God, and see if you've been asking for stuff that you know God would not be pleased with. So until next time, grace and peace.